Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Monday, January 13th. Maybe a couple seconds after 8 a.m. Thank you for being a part of the show. The Sleewa Show, Monday through Friday, right here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys hanging out. What is going on? You know, I didn't do a show on Friday. I didn't do a live show on Friday. And I feel like by not doing a live show on Friday, I haven't done a show in like 3 months or something like that. We got a lot to catch up on. We got a lot to talk about. Lakers are going to be back in action tonight. Obviously, games have been postponed because of the fires. Interesting weekend, and then also very excited to get back to doing the show and talking some hoops, talking some NFL, talking a little bit about everything. So I'm gonna give everybody a second to come in. I got a very, very nice cup of coffee going right now. My first cup. You know, sometimes I'll get a cup of coffee in, then I'll have tea with you guys. That's not the case today. We're getting right to coffee, and there's no time for tea tonight. So let everybody kind of get in the chats, make sure that's all happening. And then we'll talk a little bit about the weekend. We'll talk a little bit why really I didn't end up doing a show on Friday. And then, of course, we'll look forward to tonight's game and everything else. So thank you for being a part of the show. I do have a quote today. The quote today is, "The one who listens understands. The one who listens understands." That's the quote today. I could use that. I could use my own advice on that one. The one who listens understands. Everyone's always trying to run their mouth, get their opinion. Just take a second there. Take a second there and listen here for a quick second. All right, appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Real quick, let me just kind of catch everybody up to speed. So Friday, obviously, I didn't do a show. You know, it's kind of crazy. So I was coming up to LA on Thursday. Thursday, I was going to come up to LA, and you know, where I've been basically the last couple of years has been in the Pasadena area. So I was coming up here and had to take care of a few things. And when I came up here, I don't think I really realized. I mean, you can watch whatever you want on TV, but I don't think I really realized just how bad things were. Maybe I did, but I guess just the mere fact that I actually drove into town. Um, I mean, listen, from where I am, I'm not kidding when I say maybe 10 minutes away is this Eaton fire. What's crazy to me, I think maybe what kind of hit home a little bit, I used to go, there's a hike in Altadena I used to take all the time. So anyways, I think the point of my story here is feel really, really bad for a lot of different people out in this area. You could see just how many people are actually genuinely affected by these fires. So this is not a small thing. The reason why Lakers, Clippers, Rams are going to have a game tonight, it's going to be in Glendale, Arizona. Man, these fires, and it wasn't just the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire out here in like Atwater, Pasadena area. It's not just those two fires. There was other fires going on, but those were the two that were most devastating. I saw something that it said that in LA County's worst fires in their history, LA County, number one is the Pacific Palisades. Number two is Eaton Canyon. So just right out the gate here, these are the two worst fires that that LA County has ever had. So, obviously very unfortunate to see the circumstances that's happened. So many buildings destroyed, so many homes destroyed. So when I came up here on Thursday night, it was just kind of different. And I mentioned this last week as well. It was really weird doing shows and pretending like, hey, let's talk about a Zach LaVine trade when all this stuff was going on. But today we'll go back to work. The Lakers are going back to work. Most of these other teams are going back to work. So I think the same way, in the same manner, it's like, all right, we'll go back to work. But kind of crazy couple of days, not going to lie, getting a chance to kind of see some stuff firsthand. It's like, what the hell just happened here? This does not, it's just sheer devastation. All right, with that in mind, I know not exactly the greatest setup to start a show, but I want to at least share that with you guys. So Friday I decided, I was like, I'm not going to do a live show. I'll do a show, but I will. I just basically had a couple updates on Jared Vanderbilt, and that was basically the show. And I didn't do anything from there. Let me give everybody a quick rundown of the show, what we got today, and then we'll keep things rolling. So, let me see here. Oh, did I say Atwater? If I said Atwater, I meant Altadena. My apologies there. If I said Atwater, I meant Altadena. Altadena was what I meant there. All right, let me give everybody a quick rundown of the show, and then um, and we'll keep things rolling. Okay, so Lakers back in action tonight. So we've been kind of waiting here these last couple of days. It's like, all right, when are they going to play? And if you're asking me personally, yeah, I wasn't pushing for, oh my gosh, this is such BS that they're not playing by no stretch of imagination. I was actually on the show with you guys when we were doing the show on Thursday. If you guys remember Thursday morning, I'm like, why haven't they announced yet that this thing's a wrap? They are not having a game tonight. I'm gonna ask 20,000 people with how poor the air quality was and everything else to come down to downtown LA and say, hey, let's just have a game while the fires are going on. I mean, at least they've given themselves a few days. Now you actually see percentages contained for both of the fires. Not to say that it can't get worse. I know there's supposed to be some bad wind this week as well. Lakers back in action tonight. We're going to spend a little bit of time on that. I'm going to give a little, I think it feels like it's been so long since the Lakers played, last game that they've played. So we'll talk a little bit about just kind of what happened before they stopped playing. Need a win versus the Spurs. I know if we're just going to go back and just start talking basketball, I want to just kind of talk about the game for a quick second. Last time Lakers had a game was against Dallas. If you guys remember, that was the bad loss against the Mavs. So just trying to get a win and trying to kind of turn the page on how the Lakers played over that road trip that they had. Spend a little bit of time on that. Biggest need for the LakeShow. Let me tell everybody this real quick. There are so many different articles right now talking about what the Lakers rumors and what player could be associated with the Lakers, and is this guy coming? Is that guy coming? Whatever the case is. So we'll just I want to ask Laker fans of what they feel like is the biggest need for this team at this point. Got some NBA news that I want to get into. Got some teams rolling. Got some teams struggling. How about Sacramento? They've won 7 games in a row. What the hell? Pacers, I think, just snapped the Cleveland Cavaliers winning streak that they had. Rams got a playoff game tonight. It's going to be in Glendale, Arizona, and then we'll do a little weekend recap. So thank you for being a part of the show. We'll get the show started. If you guys don't mind taking a couple of seconds to subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate that. Cheers to everybody. Let's get the show started. Good morning to everybody. I see a lot of happy Mondays here. Top of the morning to you as well. Welcome back, everybody. Man, it's crazy. I'm not kidding. One freaking day I didn't go. And in my head, I'm like, I felt like I was gone for like a month and a half. I had like a guilty conscience of needing to record a show on Friday. I'm like, all right, well, got to get him something. So anyways, we'll get the show started. So Lakers back in action. Doesn't it feel like the Lakers haven't played in a month? I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this. It does. It really genuinely feels like they haven't played in, it feels like a month or so. And when the last couple of games that the Lakers played, so just kind of give everybody an idea, last 2 games that the Lakers played was that 2-game road trip that they had. They were on the road at Houston a week ago yesterday, and then they were on the road against the Dallas Mavericks a week ago tomorrow. So I'm looking at the Lakers schedule. I don't know, my voice went up there. I'm looking at the Lakers schedule, and I'm like, all right, so they didn't play Thursday. They didn't play Saturday. Technically, they only missed 2 games, and then they would have this game tonight. We'll see when the Lakers eventually postpone those games. But the taste that when they end up rescheduling those games, the taste, I think, in a lot of Laker fans' mouth about a week ago, 6 days ago, was like, the sky is falling. What do you mean we can't beat Dallas without Luka, without Kyrie? Doesn't that seem like that was 3 months ago? But that was about a week ago or so. So that's where we stand right now. Where we stand right now is we Lakers kind of had some moments where there was some momentum. Then they go on that 2-game losing streak. They're 20-16 overall now. And that home cooking that we were talking about, where the Lakers are just going to be able to be at home. They don't have to worry about anything. They just play all these home games. they're in a much different situation now. They still got, a number of home games left in the month of January, but when Charlotte and San Antonio, when those games are made up, we'll see. I mean, obviously those are going to still be home games, but I'm sure it screws up all the scheduling for everybody. But that gives you kind of a little bit of taste of, oh yeah, that's right. That's where the Lakers are. Oh yeah. They were getting out rebounded by the Dallas Mavericks. Oh yeah. We were frustrated about Rui Hachimura having 1 rebound in that game against the Dallas Mavericks. Oh yeah. Lakers didn't come to play. They weren't ready. So that at least takes us back to the last time the Lakers were on the court when they played. Tonight, it's against the San Antonio Spurs. Tip-off's going to be at 7:30. So I'll tell everybody just kind of a couple things here in regards to the game tonight. I will be going tonight. And, I actually had submitted a request to go on Saturday's game, but obviously that game never happened. So yesterday, I'm like, all right, let me see if I could submit a request for tonight and see if I could catch the Lakers game tonight. So I'll be there tonight, and I will do a post-game show from the arena tonight. But tonight's going to be interesting. Tonight's going to be an interesting game. You're going to have, I'm sure, the Lakers have kind of already put out, there's opportunities, a donation drive. So there's certain food items that they'll be taking in, certain toiletries and things along those lines. So that's going to be happening while the game is going on. They're going to do everything they can for some of these first responders that have literally been working when did the fire start? Fire started Tuesday in the Pacific Palisades. I want to say it was Tuesday in the Pacific at 10:30 a.m., 10 a.m., whenever it was. And it's been going on since. So they're going to be doing something for, first responders. We know JJ Redick lost his home. I'm sure there's other people that have some type of association with the Lakers that maybe they were part of the evacuations, or maybe they're people that they know that were a part of whatever the case is. Everyone's going to have some type of connection to what's going on with these fires. So with that all being said, when all that dust settles, there's actually going to be a basketball game, and the Lakers are going to play the San Antonio Spurs. I'm going to start kind of turning the page, and maybe tomorrow we can revisit this, and I got no problem doing that, especially after we get a game in. But I'll start turning the page, and I'll kind of just start focusing a little bit more on just the actual basketball game. Lakers just need a W tonight. If I'm just talking basketball, okay? I'm not talking, anything else. I'm just purely talking about basketball. They just need to get back on track. It's funny. I look at San Antonio. They're 18-19 so far this year. Lakers have already played them twice this season. They're 2-0 against them so far this year. Lakers just need to, I think, get back into the mix of things. And part of that, I'm sure, and by the way, because the Spurs have lost 3 games in a row, I'm sure they feel the exact same way. And don't forget, San Antonio has been here probably since Friday, because they were going to play on Saturday. I know they had checked in. Originally, their hotel was going to be in one part of town, and then they moved it just for precautionary reasons. And I want to say they're staying in downtown. So Spurs have been in here, been in LA for a few days now. But when I say Lakers just need a win, let me go back to when they were actually on the basketball floor. Let me go back to the basketball portion of what I enjoy doing most when I do this show. Lost a couple games in a row, felt a little momentum kind of slipping away, lose a bad game against Dallas, and then you had this stretch of home games coming. San Antonio tonight. Doesn't it just feel like Lakers just need to get a W in front of them to just take a breath of fresh air and just say, all right, what a crazy week. What the hell is going on in LA? What the hell is going on, obviously around Southern California and these fires? You had 2 games that were postponed. Before that, you had the losses that the Lakers had. I feel like just getting a win is so critical, and it's so important for the Lakers. Now, you can look back and say, oh, this is going to be a walk in the park because they've beat San Antonio a couple times already. I wouldn't say that. I think if we've learned anything from this Lakers team, by the way, just looking at the previous games they played and won a really close game in San Antonio. That was in mid-November, 120-115. I want to say they played them a week later in San Antonio again, and they blew them out of the water. They won by 18. So Lakers have 2 comfortable wins against the Spurs. And, this is one of the teams that I think is going to be right on the fringe there of, are they going to be a playing team? Are they not? Probably going to be. Obviously Wembenyama, what does this man look like in the next couple of years? His trajectory. They got a couple more veterans now they added to the team in Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul. So they're trying to do whatever they can to put Wembenyama in a position where he gets as much experience as possible. They'll have a little bit of desperation. I think Lakers will have a little bit of desperation. The last thing that you want to see tonight is, in 14, 15 hours from now, I'm at the arena. I'm doing the post-game show. And all I'm talking about is, man, that's the third straight loss for the Lakers. Hey, you know what? There were a lot of kind of distractions tonight because of everything that's going on. What a cool tribute for the first responders. Lakers doing what they always do. They show their love for the city and the people that are working hard right now. But the Lakers still ended up with an L in all this. There would be a, kind of a feeling, again, from just a basketball perspective, outside of basketball, who care, or from a basketball perspective, I'm just talking basketball. At the end of the day, these are just games, and everything else going on in LA is, of course, much more important than a basketball game. But most people are on here to hear me talk, to give my opinion on sports and to give my opinion on basketball. But from that perspective, it would really, really be disappointing to see the Lakers with another L, and it's 3 games in a row. And that's why for me, there's a little bit of an emphasis of just grab a W. If you can just get a win tonight and kind of start working your way back on track, I feel like that's going to be key for the Lakers. I feel like this is kind of an underrated, important game for the LakeShow of where they are. After this, they got Miami at home, Brooklyn at home, Clippers home game, Washington at home, Boston at home, and then they start going on the road again. So they still got a lot of home cooking, for the next minimum. It's about another 12 days before they actually go out on the road and leave the state of California for about 2 weeks. So they'll still have an opportunity to stay here. But at the same time, I think people want to start seeing some W's. All right, let me look at some of the comments here, and then I want to talk a little bit about Wembenyama. So let's look at some of these comments here. Nice to get back to some Laker hoops. City could use a distraction, no question about that. There was football all weekend. You are right about that. I caught games were okay. Last night's Tampa Commanders game was great. But a lot of the other games weren't that good. And we'll get into some of the games, but Buffalo wasn't a good game. Philly wasn't a good game. Green Bay couldn't make it a game. A lot of these other games were really not that exciting at all. Shout out to the firefighters. Man, so crazy. So crazy seeing some of that footage that's out there. They got those drone shots that shows. I mean, I know you guys have heard this term a lot. When they say it looks like a bomb was dropped, the way the cars are just completely torched. I mean, neighborhoods just gone. I got a good buddy of mine that owns a home in Altadena. And by the way, my bad when I said Atwater earlier. Atwater's not that far from there, but obviously Altadena is what I'm referring to. I got a good buddy of mine who owns a home in Altadena. And just a trip, some of the videos that he was sending me, some of the photos, and this guy, all these houses gone, his house stood. And there's no explanation. Now that doesn't mean they can just go back to their house. He's got a couple of young kids, but doesn't mean they can just go back to his house and that's it. They're all good to go. I mean, it's going to be a really long time before they're able to go back in there. But just like stuff that you just don't understand is like entire neighborhood's gone. All right, let me get a couple more here, and then we'll keep going. Drove through Altadena and saw the destruction. It's crazy. Yeah, I did a little bit of that as well. Part of me just spent a kind of a decent amount of time up in that area when I'd go on hikes and everything else. About a 12-minute, drive from where I am in Pasadena. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Wait. Okay, so what happened to this entire? I mean, everything's cut off, so you can't really go and see where you were. But yeah, definitely worried about that. Brian, sorry about your Chargers. So what are you talking about? My Chargers. My team is the Texans. Texans are my team. All right, let me see a couple more of these Laker comments, and then I want to get into Yeah, congrats on your Texans. That's the right comment there. That's my squad is the Texans. Anytime that owner can lose, we all win. I'm talking about the owner of the Chargers. All right, let's talk a little bit about Victor Wembanyama. Okay, Victor Wembanyama. Certain games that the Lakers play that it's so natural to get excited about. So let me tell you what I mean by that. If the Lakers are going to play Memphis, I'm like, get to see John Morant for a little bit. If the Lakers are about to play Minnesota, it's like, all right, check out Anthony Edwards. I think every team that's out there, even if it's a team like Sacramento, it's like, all right, you know what? You only get to see Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox a couple times. All right, let's see these guys play. Victor Wembanyama is obviously a different type of beast. I was looking at this guy's stats so far this year. All right. Now, again, let me preface by saying this. A lot of these other teams I'm not watching on a night in, night out basis. I'm not. I just don't have time, nor do I have, I think sometimes it's just timing where you're like, all right, cool. Denver's playing tonight and they got a good game against Boston. I'll watch this game. OKC went up against Cleveland. I really tried going out of my way to watch this game. I'm not watching Wemby every night. Let me read to you guys. We're going to get Wembanyama tonight. And I don't have a comp. I don't understand what Wembanyama is. And I do have some concerns about his game that are more physical than to do with anything else about his game. Things that he can't control. Let me read to you guys his stats so far this year. Okay, here's Wemby's stats. Wemby so far this season is averaging 25 points a game. Okay. Just under 11 rebounds a game. He shoots 87% from the free throw line. He shoots 48% from the field. And then he's about a 35% three-point shooter as well. Okay. He's dropping almost 4 dimes a game, and he averages 4.0 blocks per game as well. I don't know what this guy is. I don't. And, again, like I said, we're going to get a chance to see him again tonight, which is always fun, which is always exciting. Anytime you get to see a player like that you're not all that accustomed to, that's a beautiful thing. That's great. Let's see what it's all about. With that in mind, there's one area of Wembanyama's game when I watch him that I just kind of sit back and I'm like, is this going to hold up? Every time that guy runs back and forth, every time that guy goes down, I'm knocking on wood here. I don't want to see anything happen to this man, but that's my only question is, can his frame, are we sitting here in 5-6 years and we're talking about what Wembanyama is or what Wembanyama could have been? He's just got this body that's so odd that it's very, I think, natural to look at him and to look at his body and to look at his size and to look at his length and to look at how skinny he is and look at his frame and just say to yourself, like, are we sure that body is going to be able to be a 12, 14-year player in the NBA? That's my only question with him. And by the way, there's no way of obviously determining that. There's no way of knowing whether it's sustainable. It's not sustainable. But what I do know is this. I do know that, when I'm watching him play now, when he's on the floor, there are highlights that just you can't comprehend. There are plays that he has the ability to make that just doesn't make any sense. There's things that his body allows him to do that no other body in the history of the NBA, or at least to this extent, allows their body to do. And oh, by the way, he can step back and he could shoot threes. He can hit his free throws. He's averaging 4 blocks a game. He does so many different things. But damn, I would be lying to everyone if I didn't say there's an area of his game that is so concerning. And it's just the mere fact that I don't know how healthy this guy is going to be. That's the only question that I have with him. And other than that, it's a treat to get a chance to watch him play. I'm looking forward to tonight's game because when the game does start, you're watching Victor Wembanyama versus Anthony Davis. You get to see these two guys go head to head. I don't know how good the Spurs are going to be this year. 18 and 19, are they going to make the playoffs? Are they not going to make the playoffs? To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I wouldn't mind them making the playoffs just so we could see Wemby in the postseason. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's my only question. His frame, his size, his length. It's so unique in the league. You're not talking about somebody that's kind of short and stocky and you feel like, yeah, he's undersized, but this guy, he's a tank. You're talking about a guy that every time he runs up and down the floor, every time he falls to the ground, it's like, is he good? Is he good? And unfortunately, that's kind of just my part of my association with him. All right, let's see some of these. Let's see what we got here. Whatever you do, Slee, don't call Wemby a bust. Oh, he's not a bust. Absolutely not a bust. Let me see what else we got here. He's different is an understatement. And maybe you guys are watching more of his games than I am. When Wemby hits free agency, Lakers got to go after him. Hey, that is the one franchise I will tell you, the San Antonio Spurs probably will hold on. Probably will hold on to that dude for. Would you be surprised if we're talking about 15 years from now? 15 years from now that he's still there. Like I don't think there would be. I don't think any surprise from anybody. Wemby doesn't have to be the most physical guy to be dominating the game. Listen, his game is phenomenal. It's beautiful actually watching his game. What I just can't understand is, sometimes watching this guy up and down the floor, I almost kind of hold my breath. You'll find yourself tonight when you're watching the game. You'll find yourself at some point saying, is he good? Is he fine? Is he not fine? Whatever the case is. I think that's just natural. It comes with it. 4 blocks per game, like more than a goalie. Yeah, I know. Ridiculous with it. All right, let's get a couple more here, and then we'll keep going. Let's see. I don't like how many threes that he shoots. Tommy Alvarado, if I can get my flux capacitor to work, I'll let you know how Wemby's career ends up. Get work on it, brother. You got to work on that flux capacitor. There's a guy I watched on YouTube that just completely BS's his way, like he's a tech, and he goes into like these parking areas where it's completely VIP, nobody else can park there, and he basically, I think, uses flux capacitor in one of his pitches there to be able to park wherever he wants. The security guard's like, sure, yeah. I mean, if you say flux capacitor, you must know exactly what the hell that you're talking about. His conditioning is great. He will continue to get stronger in weight room. He's dedicated to being excellent. Folks around are saying he wants excellence. Phenomenal. Hey, he'd be great for the league. I think we're all asking for who's going to be the next face of the NBA. I'm sure the NBA wants that to be Victor Wembanyama. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's the only area of his game. And, listen, I said this. I'm looking forward to him playing tonight. I'm looking forward to any chance I get to watch him play. But it would be impossible not to have some kind of concern there. Okay, Lakers Spurs tonight. It's a late tip-off, by the way. It's at 7:30. I'll do post-game after the game, and I will do it from the arena. All right, I got a couple questions here for the Lakers, for Laker fans that are out here, and we'll keep things rolling here. So I got on one of my topics, biggest need for the LakeShow. A couple articles came out. Let me for those that are asking, because I've seen a couple of them already in the chats. Just real quick here on Jared Vanderbilt. So he's not playing tonight. So just so everybody knows, he's not playing tonight. But I want to read something here. JJ Redick says Vanderbilt's return is imminent, could come during homestand. So all those that have had a lot of, just have not believed that this man is coming back anytime soon. I mentioned it on Friday when I did my video that this is the closest he's ever been. We're closing in on almost a year that he's been out, but this is the closest that we've been. We know that he practiced on Friday. We know he was with the South Bay Lakers. We know he also practiced with the Lakers, still recovering from that foot surgery. But it sounds like now it's not if, but it's when. And it also sounds like it's probably coming in the next week or two at the most. So those that are asking about Jared Vanderbilt, that's where we are on that. And you don't have to you don't have to roll your eyes. You don't have to think in your head, oh my God, here's this guy talking about him again. This guy's not coming back. What keep Vando's on his way. So keep that in mind. Vando's on his way. So whether that's in the next couple of days or it's in 2 weeks, it sounds like before we're getting to February 1st, Jared Vanderbilt is going to be back. So just keep that in mind, and then we'll go from there. Okay. There was an article over the weekend, and I know there's a lot of chatter right now about the Lakers. How can they still improve their roster? What is it that they need to do? What are some areas that they're going to need? We've kind of talked about a lot of the same names, but I want to get into a couple things I saw over the weekend, and we'll just throw these out as far as some potential opportunities for the Lakers. There was an article that came out. If you guys remember last week, I had mentioned, because it was something Dave McMenamin had put in the Laker Power Rankings on ESPN. He talked about a trade scenario for Zach LaVine and what it would take to go out and get Zach LaVine. And if you can still hold on to LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Austin Reaves, and you add Zach LaVine, I had asked, a lot of Laker fans out there, is that team good enough to compete for an NBA championship? Had a lot of comments, on that video, and certainly people were giving their opinion about it. All right, but was there, how much was that just kind of a, let me throw a scenario out there and see what happens? Or was there some truth to potentially trying to land Zach LaVine? Article came out over the weekend. It might have come out yesterday, and I'm going to read this here. Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times reported that the Lakers and Bulls were discussing a potential trade of Zach LaVine to LA. Okay, I'm going to read this here. A source also said that there was early season talk about LaVine and the Lakers, but the puzzle didn't have the right pieces at the time. With Los Angeles moving the D'Angelo Russell contract a few weeks ago for Dorian Finney-Smith, the puzzle was all but thrown in the garbage. All right. So what the article is basically saying, again, this is somebody here, Joe Cowley, who represents the Chicago Sun-Times. Remember when we've had this conversation before, and I've had some different guests that are on that really focus more on the trade or the cap and the aprons and everything else that gets really confusing in the NBA when it comes to flexibility for certain teams. If you guys remember, I had a few people tell me on the show that once they traded D'Angelo Russell, it kind of took away the swinging for the fences. And what I'm talking about is going after Jimmy Butler or De'Aaron Fox, or I'm just throwing out names here of guys that have been rumored, Brandon Ingram. It kind of took those names out. I thought Zach LaVine was out of the picture as well until last week. I'm reading that article or part of that little piece that Dave McMenamin had. So as I sit here today, and as we look at the Lakers' current situation, and we've had that conversation about Zach LaVine in the past, it sounds like that original chatter about once you got rid of D'Angelo Russell, all you're going to try to do from here is work around the edges. All you can really do from here is try to fill a hole here, try to fill a need here. Do you need a big man? Go get a big man. But that big man's not going to be, if it's Walker Kessler, well, really all you got, you don't have to do all that much for Walker Kessler. You're probably just going to have to give up draft compensation. If it's Jonas Valanciunas, well, you just got to match a contract like Gabe Vincent and then Jonas Valanciunas. Those contracts will work together. Maybe there's some draft compensation you have to throw, whatever the case is. It gets a lot more complicated if you want to go after players the caliber of Zach LaVine. I will tell you that, that perked my interest when I did see that article last week, because it was, all right, can you make Austin Reaves the fourth best player? Are there now scenarios where maybe Austin Reaves doesn't have to, there's not as much on his shoulders. He could just go back to being more of not luxury is not the right way to put it, but you can use him when you need him more rather than, hey, we need you all game long and we need the ball in your hands and we need you to be dropping 8 to 10 dimes a game and we need you to score 25 points, something that probably is not realistic for Austin Reaves' game on a night in, night out basis. So when I saw this article and kind of got a chance to read it, saw some of the quotes from there, I think really what it took from me more than anything else, if they do improve the roster, we're going to go back to what I think originally thought of are the only ways the Lakers can improve the roster. The way they're going to improve the roster is by doing something small. With that in mind, there was an article out there. And I threw out there, what is the biggest need for the Lakers? Lakers Nation had put out these different options for the Lakers to replace D'Angelo Russell. But I guess the question that I got for Laker fans, and I'll look at some of these comments here in just a second, but I just want to kind of get through what I'm saying here. I guess the biggest question that I have for Laker fans out there is the point guard position, the backup point guard role, most important? Or is it the backup big man role that's most important? Or is it another wing that's most important? Because I think right now it's safe to say that the Lakers don't have, hey, if they just had this, they're good. Granted, I would tell you this from a wing position, if Vando comes back and now you got basically Vando, Dorian Finney-Smith, you have Rui Hachimura at some points, if Christian Wood comes back, doesn't, I know that's more power forward, something along those lines. I think you have enough of those type of players. Clearly, losing D'Angelo Russell and putting so much on the shoulders of Austin Reaves, probably not the best, but okay, well, how many times is LeBron going to have the ball versus how many times Reaves is going to have the ball versus how many times you're going to run the offense to Anthony Davis? Will Shake Milton get opportunities? We kind of sit here all day. What position do you think is of most desperation for the Lakers before that February 6th date comes up? I'm going to look at some of your comments, and then I do want to go over Lakers Nation, some of their point guard options to replace D'Angelo Russell. So we'll do that here in just a second. Let's take a look at some of your comments here real quick. Zach is good, but money is too much. Lakers would have to gut the roster to do this trade. Technically, I think the trade was Rui, Vando, Gabe Vincent, maybe Jalen Hood-Schifino, and then, of course, you're going to be giving up draft compensation after that. So with that in mind, and I think the money, I think what Zach LaVine, to me, what it meant that you're trying to compete for a championship this year and next year, and then after that, and you're also putting all your eggs in that basket. You're saying that, hey, with Zach LaVine, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Austin Reaves, and whatever pieces, Dorian Finney-Smith, whatever pieces you put around it, that's the squad to go compete for a championship. I got to be honest with you, that's not a bad squad. That's a very interesting team. So I think there was a way to make it work. But I think if you're, the Chicago Bulls, what do you want in return? Do you want these contracts that have, I'm sure the D'Angelo Russell contract was of interest to them because it was expiring. I know Lonzo Ball is about to be on the market, or at least there's been some chatter about that. Are they just saying, hey, let's just 100% just completely rebuild? It doesn't really matter what we want. If you're going to make a deal and it's two teams making a deal, what the hell does the other team want? Obviously, that's going to be critical and important too. All right, let's see what else we got here. To be honestly, I'd rather have BI. I'm a fan of Brandon Ingram. If he's your third best player on your team, I'm a fan of BI. But who knows what they're going to end up doing as well. And I'm talking about the Pelicans. All right, let's see what else we got here. We need more backups to compete with a team like Boston. It's funny. There's certain teams that I don't even think about because we're so not on that level. Boston's one of those teams. We kind of got a couple opportunities to see the Lakers against some pretty good teams. 7-14. Remember, that's a stat after Lakers lost against Dallas. That's the only stat everybody read. 7-14 against teams above 500. So it's not even just Boston. There's a lot of different teams out there. Penetrating guard. So this is something that somebody's saying that is the biggest need for the Lakers. Penetrating guard, wing defender, then back up a big man. Yeah, for me, I would say a bruiser I think is most important, but equally important is probably that point guard position. Having a point guard that you can just kind of rely on and say, okay, well, we don't completely lose all our ball handling abilities and our chance to get into our offense once LeBron or Austin Reaves goes to the bench. A big man, if AD goes down, Lakers are cooked. I don't think you need a big man because AD goes down. I think if AD goes down, it's over anyways. I think you need a big man because the best that Anthony Davis, I think, has offered the Lakers is when he had other big men around him. All right, Northborough AES. Get Lonzo. Hit 5 threes last night, and his D is back to. That's what Lakers can afford. Lakers can't do buyouts. Big body you can get on a 10-day later. Yeah, okay. Let me take this. And Northborough, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on this. That article I was talking about, Lakers Nation. Lonzo was on that list. I'm going to skip a couple. I'll just go to Lonzo first. Let me read to you what this article says. So, obviously, a very familiar name. Lonzo was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. We all know that. Lonzo's on an expiring contract, too. There's a couple guys. I know Malcolm Brogdon is on an expiring contract as well. I think Lonzo's owed $21.4 million. Okay, so how do you make that work? That's probably a Rui plus who did they have in here? Lakers would need to include both Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt or throw in multiple filler contracts such as Jalen Hood-Schifino or Shake Milton or Jackson Hayes or Cam Reddish. So they threw out. Listen, I've said this before. I don't know if I'm one of the few people. I used to always, when Michael Thompson and I were doing a show together, we're doing the pregame show together when I was doing the Laker broadcast. One of the things I think him and I always talked about is we both love Lonzo's game. I'll tell you why we love Lonzo's game. You don't see too many NBA players out there that are saying to themselves, let me tell you what I want to do. I want to get stops, and I also want to distribute the ball. I want to see if I could get 7, 8, 10 assists a game, and I want to play defense. There's not too many point guards or really any players in the NBA where they enjoy focusing on that side of the floor. The only problem with that is I just don't know how healthy this guy is. Now, granted, you really don't have much risk because he is in the final year of his contract. And when this year ends, if it doesn't work out, then you could just kind of part ways with Lonzo. I don't mind Lonzo. I know somebody here saying that he had 5 threes. We can look at some of his stats on the season, how many games he's played, and everything else. I have not paid too close attention to that. I'm a fan of the concept of Lonzo Ball. Like I said, just one of the issues is going to be how's he feeling? What's he look like game to game? All right, let me look at some of these past few games for Lonzo. Yes, last night he had 15 points at 5 threes. Night before that, he had 12 points. I like looking at his assists and his steals. Damn, still getting steals. Look, since January 1st, here's his games. 3 steals, 2 steals, 3 steals, 2 steals, 3 steals, and then had none yesterday against the Sacramento Kings, but that's damn impressive. Assists are down. 4 assists, 6 assists, 2 assists, 1, 6, 3. So that's down a little bit. And then points are always going to vary for Lonzo. If you're depending on Lonzo Ball for points, I wouldn't pay too close attention to that. Here are some of the other guards, so you guys know, that was mentioned in this article. Some of the other guards that was mentioned in this article, Colin Sexton, we've heard a lot about. So that one's not too big of a surprise. He's got $18 million left on his contract, and he's also around next year as well. So he's going to be around for not just this year, but next year, whatever trade package that would look like. By the way, he's only 26 years old. If you got Colin Sexton in a deal, that's a significant upgrade to have another guard. Here's a player that I think, players like this, I'm a fan of, but it's probably trying to make it work. Malcolm Brogdon, but I know he also has got, he's had injury issues and everything else, but I'm a fan of his game. I am. I think he's just on an awful team, which is the Wizards. I think he could be, no question about it, help the Lakers out in some capacity, but there's another name that was mentioned. Then there's some names that I just don't think were realistic. Anthony Simons was mentioned. CJ McCollum was mentioned. I don't think either of those players, I don't think the Blazers are trading away Anthony Simons. And B, CJ McCollum, if he gets shopped, he should get shopped. I think that's a player that has some value in the NBA, and I think some teams out there would go for him. But if he does get shopped, I don't see the Pelicans doing a deal with the Lakers and trying to give up CJ McCollum to LA. It's my personal opinion on that one. All right, let's get another one here. Slee, teams should seriously consider building for the future. Presti did a magnificent job in OKC organically. Okay, it's a good one to talk about here because this has actually been a conversation for the Lakers. This has been a conversation I think some Laker fans have had here for a while. Last couple of years, I think that's been a fair conversation that's been brought up. Even at my time when I was at 710, if that conversation was brought up, anybody that brought it up that was it was in my opinion, I don't think it was crazy to bring up. Okay. Now, it was a difficult position to be in because and I didn't think they should rebuild. So let me say that. But when you got to the Western Conference Finals, it was really difficult to say, "Hey, let's rebuild." No, I think it's natural for you to say, "We're not that far away. We just got to add some pieces. Let's see what this team can do over an 82 game stretch, rather than this team being put together right before the trade deadline." But I think here's the question you got to ask yourself when this question comes up. Do you guys think that front office, and you're using Oklahoma City as an example? First off, Sam Presti might be the best president of basketball operations in the NBA, period. He could be. And I don't think a lot of people, if you said, give me your top 5 president of basketball operations, Sam Presti is getting brought up. Probably top 3, Sam Presti is getting brought up. And what Sam Presti is kind of known for is identifying players, drafting the right players, developing the right players, understanding he doesn't have the resources that a franchise like the Lakers have, so he's got to do it differently. Do you have confidence that the way this front office is ran and the way the Lakers are ran, that you want to take a similar strategy of the Oklahoma City Thunder? Because I'll tell you, I don't think that would go well at all. Plus, I don't think the franchise has patience to wait to try to develop players organically. Plus, I don't think the fan base has patience to try to develop players organically. So conceptually, the idea of looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder and saying, hey, look what they did, we should do it that way. No, let me tell you who should do it that way. Teams like Washington should do it that way. Teams like San Antonio should do it that way. Teams like Cleveland maybe is a good example, even though they're kind of doing it their own way. There are franchises, Sacramento, you may look at. And there's certain franchises that have to do it that way. I don't think Lakers are one of those franchises now. I also don't think that the Lakers, the way they run shop, it could be a lot better, because I think they do need to value more of their draft picks. I do think they need to develop better. I do think they need to do a better job of finding maybe international gems, on top of having all the resources of saying, hey, we're also the Lakers and we can attract players to come here because of the market, because of the, the franchise, because of the history, because of all those other things. So conceptually, I appreciate the comment, but I don't think anybody on this Lakers team, or I'm sorry, within this Lakers franchise, can do anything the way OKC is doing it. And I think they also don't feel like they have to. So appreciate the comment, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. Let's see what we got here. Colin Sexton is nice, two-way player and better off ball, plus only 7 million versus 18 million. Oh, but I think he's saying Lonzo there. All right, let's see a couple more here. Has zero to do with patience. Some of it has to do with patience, and the other part of it has to do, you just can't. If you want to build like the Oklahoma City Thunder and Sam Presti, then you got to go get Sam Presti. You know what I mean? You got to go get arguably the best executive in the NBA. So that's how that's going to go. That's going to only happen if that's the case. If you want to build like him or like that squad, but you got to go get him. You got to go get him. You know, it's almost, if I got to give a comp, it's like when the Dodgers went and got Andrew Friedman from Tampa Bay. He might be the best operator in baseball, and he was doing it with Tampa. What if you brought him to the Dodgers and you gave him every resource possible, unlimited resources. And he could still do the little things that he was doing with Tampa, but then also take advantage with all the unlimited money and resources that he gets with the Dodgers. Now, I know it's not completely the same because there is a salary cap in the NBA. I personally think the system of basketball gives a lot more teams a shot of competing than the system in baseball. But that would be the comp, is the Dodgers going out and getting Andrew Friedman from Tampa. It would need to be something along those lines. All right, let me look a couple more comments here and we'll keep this thing going. I must insist on trading for Lonzo. No brainer. I'd take Lonzo back. I'd take Lonzo back in a second. Listen, I'll go back to what I just said. It's unique to have a player that wants to dish the rock and also at the same time wants to play defense. His only question is going to be health, but his contract is up at the end of the year. So, that's obviously the good news in regards to that. All right, let's keep things rolling here. I had a couple things around the NBA that I want to get into, and then a couple things around the NFL, and then we got the weekend recap, and then we're going to call it a day. I'll be back on tonight after the Lakers take on the San Antonio Spurs. Good to be back. Got to be honest with everybody. It's been, obviously it's been really weird this last 4 or 5 days or so. Hopefully, we could be sitting here in a couple of days and we're talking more and more about, all right, more and more stuff is contained around LA. They feel like they got everything under control. Hopefully that's going to be the case as we go. Around the NBA, just here real quick, I just, as much, and I think this kind of is a good example, with the Lakers not playing any games, I actually found myself watching almost no NBA over these last couple of days. So this morning I was looking, I'm like, all right, what's going on around the league? Oh, hey, Cleveland finally lost a game. I think they had won 11 in a row. By the way, Cleveland, 5.5 game cushion in the Eastern Conference for number one in the East. Impressive. That's what they got to do. They got to have the number one record in the East. I would still try to go make a trade if they can and just try to improve that roster. They need, in my opinion, another wing if they're going to, truly compete with the Celtics. But anyways, was looking there. So Cavs finally got an L. Indiana's won 6 games in a row. They're the team that ended up beating the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was looking at, okay, hey, where are these other teams what are these other squads doing? Milwaukee, still kind of on the fringe there, right in 6th place. Where's Philly? Philly's not even in the picture right now. They continue to play 500 ball. I'm looking in the Western Conference. Okay, Houston's back on. OKC, forget about it. They're going to run away with number one in the Western Conference. But I'm trying to look at some of these other teams. How are these other teams doing? Houston's back on track. They've won 7 of 10. Denver's back on track. They've won 7 of 10. Sacramento out of nowhere has won 7 games in a row. How about since Doug Christie took over? I think they were 5, 6, 7 games below 500, whatever it was. And now all of a sudden Sacramento's playing. Hey, maybe sometimes the message was just worn down. I have no idea. I thought, them firing Mike Brown was just going to be the beginning of the end for the Sacramento Kings. And they're going to have to figure, everything out from there. But that has not been the case. They've kind of found a way to, and they're only a game over 500, but they find a way to kind of creep back into the mix here. Okay. Couple comments, and then I want to go NFL here real quick. Oh, yeah, that's right. They're doing all this without De'Aaron Fox. By the way, isn't that a message to De'Aaron Fox as well? They're winning without De'Aaron Fox. Why don't you just come back and be one of the guys? I'm a fan of De'Aaron Fox. I'm not trying to take a shot at him. I'm a fan of his game. Somebody here saying stat patter. Maybe he is, but every time I've seen him against the Lakers, I feel like he does a little bit of everything. So I don't know about that. I don't know how much NFL you guys watched over the weekend, but let me just first real quick mention the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings tonight. So we know that the game got moved from Inglewood at SoFi to Glendale, Arizona. They're going to play where the Arizona Cardinals play. Probably a real gut shot for the Rams, who end up again an impressive 10-7 season. Find a way, even when they were 1-4 to start the year. Last year, I think they were 3-6. Find a way to get back in the playoffs. But that's a disappointing one for them where they have a home game, they get a chance. I know people are going to say, "Oh, it's probably going to be 50% the opposing fan base." Hey, look, you're probably right. I mean, we've seen what LA has been, what the NFL has been so far in LA. Really, I think for SoFi Stadium, I think a lot of the people who run that stadium and run these teams, would they prefer to have their, 90% of their own fan base? Sure. But whoever buys the ticket is still paying. And really what it is, it's just phenomenal business for whoever comes to Inglewood and goes to a game over at SoFi. But whether it was 50% of the fans, not whatever the case is, of course, Rams getting a chance to be at home, getting home cooking, pretending like it is a home game, getting an opportunity because of their record and for winning the division. This is the reward that you get, is you get to play a home game, all those things, to just all of a sudden be in Arizona where you play just once a year. It is a disadvantage. So, unfortunately, because of the fires and the situation and everything else, they didn't have a choice. They had to move the game to Glendale. But that game's coming up tonight, and they're taking on Minnesota. I actually think this is a coin flip game. I didn't go either way. If you told me Rams were home, I would take the Rams, kind of edging this one out. But the fact that they're not at home, I think this can go either way. They played earlier in the season. 30-20 was the score. Rams won at SoFi in Inglewood. That game was back on October 24th. So we do know that this has been a matchup that we've seen before, and we do know that the Rams have won. But give Minnesota a ton of credit. What they end up with, 13 wins on the season, I think it was, maybe 14 wins. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were phenomenal this year. And they got one shot against the Rams to move on. I think it's going to be a great game tonight. I really do. Like I said, a disadvantage for the Rams because of the situation and the predicament. But I know I'm going to get my ass down to the arena early tonight so that, we could do our job and get a chance to listen to JJ Redick. And if we get an opportunity to connect with any of the players, awesome. But then there's a lull between when the game starts, at 7:30. I'm gonna be watching some Rams and some Vikings and seeing obviously what happens in that game. But that should be a fun game. I think it'd be a really, really competitive game. I don't see either side. If you told me 27-24 Rams, makes sense. If you told me 27-24 Vikings, makes sense. If we're sitting here, we're talking about a 2-score loss or a 2-score win for the Rams, I'd be surprised to see that. I think this one's going to come down to the wire. I did mention, as I kind of get through the NFL recap here, and I'll look at some of your comments here towards the end. A couple of the games, I say this. You guys know my reasoning for it. Not a Charger fan. Still devastated. I swear on my life, still devastated like it happened yesterday that the city of San Diego lost the Chargers. So obviously root against them. I just feel bad for my city, the city that I'm from. But I really thought the Chargers were going to beat the Texans. I really did. I really, really did. I did not see that coming on Saturday. Texans 32-12 over the Chargers. 4 picks for Justin Herbert. Kind of an ugly game for both sides. But Texans just demolished the Chargers. I didn't see that coming at all. I think you look at a lot of these teams are made up by their coach, and Harbaugh becoming the coach of the Chargers instantly changes kind of the mantra of that team. But there they were in a playoff game, everybody watching, and they were awful. They were really, really bad. So Texans beating the Chargers, Ravens and Steelers, never a game, never, really nothing to watch. There was always felt like a 2-score separation. Bills and the Broncos, the exact same thing. Never really exciting about that game. I thought Eagles and the Packers wasn't a good game as well. So I just kind of looked at the NFL weekend. You enjoy the playoffs, certainly, but the games weren't that good. Next round is going to be a lot more competitive, as it should be. Some of the other matchups are going to be a lot better, and I'll get into that in just a second. But I thought last night's Sunday night game, let me kind of share everybody on this one, just so we're all on the same page. For those who don't know, Magic Johnson was part of the new ownership group that came to the Washington Commanders. They haven't won a playoff game in 19 years. And I'm not trying to give Magic all the credit here, but I'm going to give him, it's not a coincidence that wherever that man goes, he wins. It's not a coincidence. Whether it was with the Lakers, whether it was in the businesses that he's run, whether he's part of the Dodgers, wherever he goes, he wins. Wherever he goes, the MLS team, the LAFC, that man is just a winner through and through. I saw a lot of clips yesterday of players seeing Magic at the game, giving him love. That was a really, really fun game to watch. I thought Tampa just kind of shot themselves in the foot. I'm not trying to take anything away. Jaden Daniels, the rookie, was phenomenal. But Baker Mayfield, a couple really critical mistakes on his side, which is why they lost that game. I'm not here trying to break down the Commanders and Tampa, but damn, Magic. Wherever this guy goes, I think he invested $200+ million to be part of the ownership group. I don't think he has a huge stake, 4 or 5%, whatever it is, but wherever that man goes, he wins. Last thing I'm going to mention on the football front as well, I got a chance, probably like everybody else, on Friday night to watch Ohio State end up beating Texas. A close game down to the end, and then it all that game ended. What was it? The defensive end, Jack Sawyer of Ohio State gets that fumble recovery, 83-yard fumble, returns it for a touchdown. So that was game. Ohio State opens as 9.5-point favorites over Notre Dame in the college football playoff. And that game is, I think, a week from today. So a week from today. But 9.5-point favorites coming into that game. So they're clearly going to be huge, huge favorites. Magic gets no credit for the Commanders. Come on, Slee. I'm not saying he doesn't get any credit. What I'm telling you is I'm giving the man credit right now as we sit here and speak. I'm giving him credit. Certainly am. All right, let's see if we got anything else. 1 or 2 more comments, and then we're going to call it a day. All right. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so just a final kind of reminder here, what's going on for the rest of today. Lakers got the San Antonio Spurs tonight. It's a 7:30 tip-off at Crypto. I'm going to go to the game, and I'm going to do a post-game show from the arena. So let's see how things go on that end. Of course, anybody that's still around or in LA, thoughts and prayers. I mentioned it to start off the show. Obviously, these fires are still going on, even though it looks like they've got better containment on it. I know I was reading some article this morning about wind could still be a problem for the rest of the week. So stay safe out there. Thank you for being a part of the show. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll be back on tonight after the Lakers take on the Spurs. Thank you for hanging out for an hour plus, everybody. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show, and we will see you tonight. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.